Meta Knight has proven time and time again to be determined, caring, intelligent, respectful, and an incredible leader who is just as skilled with a blade as he is at building a battleship. And yet, despite everything we know about him, Meta Knight still remains mostly shrouded in mystery. He may have been introduced as Kirby's sworn enemy, but he's grown into one of his greatest allies, an honorable leader of Dreamland, and a powerful hero in his own right, and I'm excited to see where the series takes him from here. Maybe future games will get to see Bandana Waddle Dee come more into his own, but as it stands, I mean, just look at him. It doesn't matter if he's a fleshed out, complex character, the guy is just delightful. And in a franchise like Kirby, that's all you really need. Kirby, Kirby, Kirby. It's a name you should know. Kirby, Kirby, Kirby. He's the star of the show. He's more than you think. He's got maximum pink. Actually, is that true? Kirby is a name you should know, and he is the star of the show, and he certainly has maximum pink. But is he really more than we think he is? Now, don't get me wrong, I love Kirby. I wouldn't have spent so long talking about this franchise if I didn't have such a massive appreciation for this character. But much like his games, Kirby is simple. I can tell you that Kirby is a simple-minded hero who loves food and naps and will stop at nothing to defend his home or his friends whenever there's danger. And that's a statement that holds true from Kirby's Dreamland all the way to Kirby's Star Allies. So, is Kirby actually more than we think? For the other character analyses, it was easy to discuss Meta Knight and DDD's roles throughout the series because their roles change from game to game. One game, Meta Knight's part of DDD's army, another he's defending an unknown parallel world. One game, DDD's stealing food from the Dreamlanders, another he's right alongside Kirby trying to protect Dreamland. Those videos worked with the structure I built this series around because there was always something different to talk about going from one game to another. Well, most of the time. That structure doesn't really work when discussing Kirby because Kirby's role is always the same. Of course he's always the protagonist, but his character motivation isn't any more complex than the antagonist antagonizing Kirby or Kirby meeting a new friend that he wants to help. And throughout each game, Kirby never learns anything or grows as a character. He just remains Kirby. Let me make it clear, Kirby is not a poorly written character. Even if he's simple, he's still incredibly well-defined and lovable. I love that King Dedede and Meta Knight have their own character arcs and little nuances to their personality. And likewise, I love Kirby because, well, he's Kirby. What's not to love about him? He's adorable, he's goofy, he's nice almost to a fault, he's not exactly the brightest, and no matter what, he's a strong hero with a cool arsenal of powers. The fact that he hasn't changed from the first Kirby game I've played to the most recent Kirby game makes him an incredibly comforting character. After all, Kirby is shaped like a friend. So, if I can't structure this video like my other videos, and we've already discussed the extent of Kirby as a character, what is there to talk about with Kirby? Originally, I was thinking of making this video about Kirby's copy abilities, allies, and enemies, but as I was writing it, it became less about Kirby the character and more about Kirby the series. That's not really what my character analysis series is about. It's about analyzing the characters and how much they change throughout the series, which is exceptionally tough to do with Kirby. Should I go game by game like the other videos? Should I look at spin-offs? And most importantly, would I be able to find a natural way to bring up Samurai Kirby? Yes! Never lose that one. At the risk of making this video too personal, the Kirby analysis has been weighing on me for a pretty long time. It's what's been stopping me from working on other videos, since this is the one thing that people who watch my videos are looking forward to. But at the same time, I can't just make a video because it's what other people want. It needs to be a video that I want to make for myself. Sure, the Bandana Waddle Dee video was made because of requests, but I wouldn't have made it at all if I didn't want to. Likewise, I can't just not make the Kirby character analysis. It's one of the major reasons I started making videos on this channel. Alright, that's enough about me though. Let's talk about Kirby. How does one analyze a character as straightforward as Kirby? The last time anyone tried to do that, they ended up in the woods with diarrhea, and that is most certainly a path I do not want to take. I could go through each main series Kirby game like I have been doing, but that would only result in plot synopses without much discussion on Kirby himself. I could add spin-offs to the mix, but some Kirby spin-offs are kind of weird with how they portray Kirby. Sometimes he can speak perfectly, and sometimes he can't even read. Sometimes he has new powers, and sometimes he has no powers at all. I could do an in-depth analysis of Kirby's copy abilities, but like Kirby himself, the copy abilities are really simple. Fire Kirby gives Kirby fire powers, Sword Kirby's a skilled sword fighter, even unorthodox abilities like Magic, Circus, Spider, all can be summarized with their title. I could talk about Kirby's relationships with other characters, but they're almost all either positive or negative, with no real nuance to them. And the two relationships that are complex are the ones I've already talked about. I could talk about Kirby's feats of strength, but in Kirby Superstar, the 4th game released in the series, Kirby defeats a demigod and a cosmic being capable of defying time and space itself. So that bar is already set incredibly high early on, and isn't surpassed until Game 12, where Kirby defeats a physical god. That's weird, right? Kirby is usually hyped up as this kind of god slayer, but it took until Kirby Star Allies, the most recent game at the time of making this video, for Kirby to actually defeat a god. He's beaten characters with godlike abilities, most notably Marx, Zero Two, Magolor, Queen Sectonia, and the Star Dream. But Void is the first actual god Kirby's claimed the soul of. Literally, he goes inside Void Termina and defeats its soul that looks suspiciously like... Wait. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I've made no secret that Kirby Star Allies is not a favorite of mine. It's certainly a good game, but just kind of lacking compared to other games in the franchise for me. One thing I will give it credit for, I think the game's use of the Kirby series lore is done really well. The way it handles the Jambastion religion, Morphonite, and Void is incredibly fascinating, combining elements from past Kirby games and simultaneously answering long-running questions while opening the doors to new potential mysteries. Void is the most powerful enemy Kirby has ever fought. Prior to this, the closest characters in the Kirby series to gods were Novas, wish-granting comets that could bend reality to make the wish of whoever summoned them come true. Novas, however, don't seem to have much will of their own, at least not without a few technological advancements and the memories of a deranged, bitter CEO. To give a brief summary of Void's backstory, Void originated from a Jamba heart that was spreading darkness. It was sealed away by 4 heroes of yore, and in the present day, said heart now finds itself in the hands of the Jambastion, the small remnants of a religious cult that devotes itself to Void. The Jambastion's leader and founder, Hyness, came from a clan of powerful wielders who worshipped the matter of darkness and were banned to the edge of the galaxy. After his clan was wiped out and lost to history, Hyness formed the Jambastion after a vision from a god invited him to a new and peaceful land, this vision matching Void. Hyness devoted himself to breaking the seal on Void, but as he delved deeper into insanity, his worship turned to obsession, and his goals to avenge and restore the power of his clan would turn to goals of pure revenge and destruction. After being defeated by Kirby, Hyness, in a last-ditch effort, sacrifices himself and his followers to the Jamba Heart, with their combined energy being able to restore the heart and resurrect Void as Void Termina. Happy birthday, Dark Lord. Kirby Star Allies, the one with the satanic suicide cult. Rated E10+ by the ESRB. At this point, you're probably wondering what any of this has to do with our plucky protagonist. After taking down the first few phases of Void Termina, Kirby finds himself face to face with Void's truest essence, and it's, kind of like looking in a mirror. This form is known by different names depending on which mode you fight it in. In the story, it's simply Void Termina. In the Ultimate Choice, this game's version of the arena boss rush from past Kirby games, playing on Soul Melter difficulty sees Kirby fight the Void Soul, and on the Soul Melter EX difficulty, Kirby fights Void itself. Now, in the canon of Kirby Star Allies, Kirby never fights Void Soul or Void, just Void Termina. That's actually fine though, because these boss battles aren't necessarily important. What is important is their lore. No one knows from whence he came, only that he has existed for eons, unchanging and unrelenting, perpetually roaming the cosmos. He has finally arrived, and now he has begun to feel, to desire, to think. Within the Void, there lurks a soul. Void exists in all dimensions, but his shining form in another dimension inspired the ancients to transcribe his mysteries in sacred text. What will be written next? Will the new scrolls describe a destroyer of worlds or an ally to the stars? No telling if it's true, but according to the ancient scrolls, Void Termina may rise again in other forms depending on whether positive or negative energy is gathered. It seems this being of darkness will wander the galaxy until one day he is reborn into a new existence. When he returns, hopefully it will be as a friend. The final battle at hand, Void takes his first steps toward a new age. In place of tyrannical rage, will he find nap time? Gentle breezes? Treats? He may even dream again. A dream of friends reunited. Kirby and Void are two sides of the same coin. Void and Kirby are the same. Or maybe not. We don't have a clear, definitive answer one way or another. Just pieces to connect that definitely should be connected. Was Kirby born from Void? Is Kirby a reincarnation of Void? Void also has heavy ties to dark matter. Does that mean Kirby is dark matter? Is Kirby related to Zero, Zero 2, Dark Nebula? And most importantly, are Kirby and Gooey brothers? Or perhaps Kirby is a kind of anti-dark matter? Maybe dream matter, heart matter, soul matter? Does it even matter? Kirby is an enigma. He always has been. He most likely always will be. We don't know where he came from, what he is, and why he is the way he is. This connection to Void is the first time since Meta Knight's introduction that we've been given some canonical insight into who or what Kirby is. And while the connection leads to more questions than answers, it's a small piece to a puzzle that's been relatively untouched for 25 years. And so, the final question remains the same as the initial question. Who is Kirby? Kirby is the hero of Dreamland, Planet Popstar, and just about every planet, galaxy, and parallel dimension within his series. Kirby is simple-minded, typically only caring about food, naps, his friends, and trying to defend the things he loves, namely food, naps, and his friends. Despite his relative simplicity, Kirby wields immense power, able to drop godlike entities and even gods themselves to their knees. Whether or not Kirby is more than meets the eye is still unknown, but what we do know is that Kirby is kind-hearted, Kirby is dependable, Kirby is great at making others smile. If I could summarize Kirby's entire character in one thought, Kirby is simply a friend, and a really great one at that.